I've done solo camping for years. It's always been my way of resetting. No texts, no emails, just the silence of nature and a good book. I've done it in deserts, in snowy valleys, even one winter up in Montana. But nothing ever felt as wrong as that weekend in October. I had booked a remote cabin in a stretch of forest up in northern Vermont. It wasn't through Airbnb or any app, just an old post on a camping forum I stumbled on late one night. The listing was simple. Rustic off-grid cabin, 1 mile hike from trailhead, no neighbors, no distractions. There was a grainy photo, wooden structure, small porch, trees curling in like claws behind it. It was perfect. Or so I thought. I messaged the guy who posted it. He went by Tom Main and replied quickly. Said he used to rent it out to hunters, but not many people were interested in something that deep in the woods anymore. Offered it for $50 a night. I wired the money and he sent me GPS coordinates and a warning. You'll lose signal about 20 minutes before the trailhead. Print the map. I should have known right then something was off. No reviews, no phone number, no real name. Just a username and an old cabin in the middle of nowhere. But I was hungry for the quiet. I left on a Friday. It was a cold morning, fog pooling low in the valleys. I parked at a dirt pull-off beside a crooked sign that just read, Old Hollow Trail. I loaded my pack, slung my sleeping bag over one shoulder, and started the hike in. The trail was barely visible, half covered in leaves and brush. Trees leaned in close, branches clawing at my jacket. I remember thinking how strange it felt, like the forest didn't want me there. I brushed it off. I was just tired. After about an hour of hiking, I reached the cabin. It was exactly like the picture, maybe even more rundown. The porch sagged. One of the windows had a crack like a spider web, but it had 4 walls and a roof. Good enough. I stepped inside. The air smelled like old books and ash. There was a stone fireplace, a creaky wooden table, a small bed with a rolled-up sleeping bag on top. A lantern sat on the windowsill. Everything had dust on it, but it wasn't abandoned. Someone had been here recently. I dropped my pack and sat on the edge of the bed listening. Nothing. Just the forest breathing outside. The first few hours were peaceful. I boiled some instant coffee, read a few chapters of a worn paperback, and watched the sun sink behind the trees. No service, no emails, just the crackle of the fire and the sound of wind rattling dry leaves. But something changed after dark. I heard movement in the woods. At first, it was just leaves crunching, probably a deer or a raccoon, but it was steady, like footsteps, slow, deliberate, circling. I turned off the lantern and pressed my ear to the wall. Silence. Then a branch snapped. Close. Way too close. I waited frozen for nearly an hour. Nothing else happened. I finally told myself it was wildlife and went to bed, still fully dressed, knife under my pillow. At 3:12 a.m., I woke up. Not from a noise, from the silence. Total, suffocating silence. No wind, no bugs, no trees creaking. Just nothing. The kind of quiet that feels loud. Then 3 knocks on the front door. Not frantic, not timid, just steady. I sat up in the dark, barely breathing. Who the hell would hike a mile into the woods in the middle of the night to knock on a stranger's cabin? The knocking came again. I didn't move, didn't make a sound. Then I heard a voice. Hey! Just that. One word. Low, flat, too calm. Hey! Like it was practicing the word. It didn't sound right. It didn't sound human. I stayed frozen until the sun came up. When I finally opened the door, there was nothing there. No footprints in the dirt. Just the trees, watching. I should have left then. Packed my gear and sprinted back to the car. But I didn't. I told myself I imagined it. That it was some creep messing around. I was being paranoid. That day, I went for a hike further into the woods, thinking some distance would help clear my head. I walked for maybe 3 hours, but the forest felt off, like the trees had shifted when I wasn't looking. The trail was gone. The moss was growing on the wrong side of the trees. I turned around to go back and found another trail I didn't recognize. I followed it, hoping it would take me back to the cabin. After maybe 10 minutes, I saw it through the trees. Same sagging roof, same cracked window. Relief washed over me. But when I walked inside, it wasn't my backpack on the bed. It was someone else's. Different brand, different color, a sleeping bag I'd never seen. And next to it, on the table, was a photo of me from behind, taken that morning. I staggered back, heart pounding. Then I heard it again, the knocking, this time from the back wall. I didn't wait, I ran. Didn't grab my pack, didn't look back. I ran until my legs gave out, collapsing somewhere deep in the woods. I passed out under a tree, heart racing, breath ragged. When I woke up, it was night again, but somehow I was back in the cabin. My backpack was there. My book was on the table. The photo was gone, and I don't know how I got there. That night I heard it walking outside, circling, scraping a hand across the walls. It whispered this time, but not in words. It was copying the sound of my own voice, repeating things I'd said earlier that day. I could hear myself saying, "It's just the woods, just the wind. You're fine." Over and over. Then it said something new. "Let me in." It didn't knock, just whispered. All night, I couldn't sleep. I just sat by the fire, clutching the knife, praying for sunrise. When morning came, I stumbled out and followed the GPS back to the car. But something was wrong. The forest didn't look the same. The trail markers were missing. The trees looked older. And when I reached the road, my car was gone. Just a patch of dead grass where it had been. I started walking, eventually found a gas station a few miles down an unfamiliar road. The guy inside looked shocked when I told him where I'd come from. He said that stretch of forest had been closed for over 10 years. Too many people went missing. I told him the name of the guy I rented it from. Tom Maine. He just stared at me. Said there was no one by that name around here. Never had been. That was 3 weeks ago. I don't know what I brought back with me, but something followed. I hear it at night, scraping along the outside of my apartment wall. Sometimes it knocks. Sometimes it whispers with my voice. And sometimes it stands outside my window, wearing my face.